Hello everyone, in this video I will show you a complete guide for the SILKBIND Deluge path. I will explain the best inner ways, best attributes for tuning, best PvE and PvP skill rotations, and advanced tips and tricks. The Deluge path is the only healer build in the game so far, and it is pretty simple to play since all you have to do is heal people. The build has a ton of survivability and you can provide your team not only with healing and reviving, but also with damage buffs and other utility enhancements. Even though this build is not focused on dealing damage, you will still have to stack critical rate and silkbind attack to get the most out of it. Healing in this game is being treated the same as damage, meaning it can be a critical heal or a regular heal, which is all affected by your critical rate. Unlike damaging hits, critical heals are not affected by abrasion or affinity rate, so they can either crit or not, based purely on your precision and critical rate. We'll talk more about stats and gear later in the video. Let's start off with briefly explaining what each martial art does. Feel free to skip to the next part of the video if you're already familiar with the skills. This build consists of the Panacea Fan and Soulshade Umbrella. The Panacea Fan will be your main healing martial art, while the Soulshade Umbrella will be more of a supporting and healing over time martial art. The Cloud Burst healing skill generates 20 dew upon use, and it summons a water clone at your location, which heals all nearby allies within its area per second, lasting for 7 seconds. After casting, if your dew is full, you can trigger the Perception skill version. What exactly is dew? Dew is the resource consumed by your Panacea Fan to use certain skills, and you can generate it using various abilities from the fan or the umbrella. You can see how much dew you have by checking the green raindrops in the bottom right corner of the screen. Each raindrop represents 20 dew and the cap is 100 dew. The Perception skill Endless Cloud consumes all stacks of dew, which means you need to have full dew stacks to provide a large burst heal to allies within range. If you have Soulshade Umbrella equipped and the special skill Echoes of 1,000 Plants is not on cooldown, it will be triggered automatically. This skill is the most powerful in your whole kit as it has the most healing and it can pull your umbrella healing skill out without having to switch to it. The special skill Light Dust After Morning Rain is your other major healing ability. It consumes 50 dew drops to apply a 6-second healing effect on yourself and the ally with the lowest HP in the party, restoring HP over time. If you select an ally in the party panel, the healing effect will target that ally instead. In non-arena modes, healing to yourself is increased by 30%. If a defeated ally is nearby and Perception skill is available, this skill will switch to the Perception skill instead. The Perception skill is called Resurrection and it gives you the ability to revive a dead teammate by consuming dew drops. If you don't select a specific dead teammate in the party list, it will revive the nearest dead teammate. The more dew drops you consume, the more HP recovered after the revive. After reviving a target, you gain the Abundant Dew buff for 5 seconds, which increases your dew resource acquisition by 100%. This ability has a 30 seconds cooldown, which is why if more than one teammate dies at the same time, you won't be able to revive all of them at once. Your final healing skill with the fan will be the Emerald Dew Touch, which is your heavy attack. This allows you to heal either yourself or a selected ally. The skill does a 3-piece combo and each hit restores 3, 5 and 12 dew drops. This skill will prioritize the target with the lowest HP percentage unless you have selected a specific target in the party panel. Unlike the other martial arts, the Panacea Fan's dual weapon skill also has a special effect. If you use the dual weapon skill to switch from your umbrella to your fan, you will trigger a healing over time buff on yourself and one nearby ally. This ability seems to be currently bugged as I have never seen it work on an ally, just on myself. The Soulshade Umbrella has a similar dual weapon skill which increases your healing by 5% and generates 30 dew over time. For this reason, with this build it's extremely important to only switch between martial arts using the dual weapon skill and not the regular swap button. Next, let's talk about the martial arts talents. Water Clone Enhancement restores 2 bonus dew per second when you are within the range of a water clone you created. Increases the water clone's healing to allies with HP below 30% by 50%. Critical rate up increases your critical rate based on agility. Heavy attack healing boost increases the healing of your heavy attacks by 5% and further by up to 25% based on your minimum physical attack. Silkbind attribute up increases your Silkbind attack and attribute attack healing bonus based on minimum Silkbind attack. Attribute Attack Enhancement makes your damaging attacks scale by 50% more with Silkbind attack compared to physical attack. As you can see, the Panacea Fan will be the main healing martial art in your kit as it provides the most healing abilities and also the ability to revive dead teammates. Let's move on to the Soulshade Umbrella, which provides us with both healing and additional utility buffs for the whole team. The Floating Grace martial art skill chose the umbrella in a circular range and grants yourself and nearby allies a 20% damage bonus for 12 seconds while healing once. Casting this while in the sleeve sword stance will instantly retract the umbrella. Next we have the Echoes of 1,000 Plants special skill, which is one of the most important in the whole kit. You toss the umbrella in the air and pull a hidden sword from the handle. You can switch to another weapon during this skill. For the duration of the skill, you get 15% more healing and it generates 60 dew over time. The umbrella hovers and follows you, automatically healing the ally with the lowest HP percentage nearby, including yourself. The healing effect on yourself is increased by 50%. You can use the special skill again to retract the umbrella early. Even though it is not mentioned anywhere, this skill lasts for 60 seconds. Lastly, we have the charge skill, Pale Petal, which is the charge heavy attack. You push the umbrella forward and it stops at a certain point, spinning in place and dealing damage. Holding the button makes it deal more damage. If it hits an exhausted target, each hit will extend the duration of exhaustion by 0.2 seconds, up to 10 times against multiplayer bosses, which means 2 extra seconds, and 20 times against any other unit, which means 4 extra seconds. All units in the game can be exhausted for a maximum of 12 seconds with the effect of this skill. This is an extremely strong effect in multiplayer PvE content, as you can keep the boss exhausted for 2 extra seconds, which gives your team the chance to deal much more free DPS. And lastly, a special bonus which is only active when you have both the Panacea Fan and Soulshade Umbrella equipped at the same time, you get a 20% damage increase for all mystic skills. This is to make the build viable in PvP and to allow you to deal some good DPS in PvE content, since you have almost no damaging skills. Let's take a look at the martial arts talents. Buff Enhancement makes your martial arts skills grant yourself and your allies an effect that deals an extra 5% damage to exhausted targets lasting 5 seconds and also grants yourself and your allies 5 seconds of tenacity. Tenacity can only be applied once every 60 seconds. When you have both the Panacea Fan and Soulshade Umbrella equipped, the damage of the mystic skills is increased by 20%. This translation makes no sense. Physical attack up gives you minimum physical attack based on agility. Critical heal enhancement increases the critical healing bonus of your special skills by 5%, up to 25% based on your minimum physical attack. Silkbind attribute up gives you Silkbind attack and Silkbind penetration based on your minimum Silkbind attack. Attribute attack enhancement makes your damaging skills scale by 50% more with Silkbind attack compared to physical attack. As you can see, the Soulshade Umbrella provides your party with damage buffs, healing, and can extend the exhaustion state of enemies, which is very helpful. Before we can get into the skill rotations and other stuff, we need to discuss about the party list mechanic, which is unique to the healer build. You can select any of your teammates from the party list menu on the bottom left side, and they will remain selected until you deselect them or if you change to someone else. You can see who is selected by the white border around their name. When you are using the Panacea Fan, you have 3 skills which can heal or revive a specific target, instead of the one with the lowest HP or the closest to you. These are the special skill, the perception version of the special skill, and your heavy attack healing skill. The special skill will prioritize the ally with the lowest HP percentage, unless you have a specific teammate selected in the party list. Your perception skill, which is the revive ability, will prioritize the nearest dead teammate, unless you have a specific teammate selected in the list, in which case it will revive them. Your heavy attack healing skill will target the player facing the camera, more specifically the middle of the screen, unless you have someone specifically selected in the party list, in which case it will always heal that player. You don't have to always use this mechanic because you can just clear most content by letting the healing abilities choose their target. However, in group PvP or Heroes Realm, you should try to control who you're healing to ensure people stay alive as long as possible. Now that we have finished talking about martial arts, it's time to see what the most optimal combos are for both PvE and PvP. The most optimal skill rotation for PvE healing goes like this. Start with the Soulshade Umbrella and use Floating Grace to apply the damage buffs to yourself and your party. Use the Umbrella special skill to apply the healing over time and dew restoration buff. Switch to your fan using the dual weapon skill and put down your cloudburst healing ability to get more dew and heal everyone in the area. Remember that switching using your dual weapon skill will apply a healing over time buff to yourself, which triggers the Eagle Rise gear set. Start spamming the fan heavy attack to heal your allies and yourself and gain a lot of dew. Whenever you reach full dew, in order to not waste it, use your fan special skill to apply a healing over time to yourself and your ally. Keep spamming your heavy attacks to heal and gain dew, and keep an eye on the party list to see if any ally is very low on health, in which case you should select them to target them with your healing. Take note of the boss mechanics, and when you know a big attack is coming, ensure you are at full dew and prepare your endless cloud perception skill for massive healing. Every 30 seconds, switch to the Umbrella again using the dual weapon skill to reapply the damage buff and the healing over time skill. Remember that switching using the dual weapon skill will apply a 5% increased healing buff and will restore 30 dew over time. If the boss is exhausted, switch to your Umbrella and reapply the damage buff, and then use the charged heavy attack to extend the exhaustion state by 2 seconds. If a big boss attack is coming and you have full vitality, use the Golden Body Mystic skill to apply a damage reduction shield to yourself and your teammates. If an ally is dead, make sure to revive them as quickly as possible and then target them with healing to get them back to full health. When playing solo PvE content, your rotation is pretty similar, but this time you want to use Dragon's Breath plus Drunken Poet combo to kill enemies fast. In order to maximize the damage of the rotation, you want to use Drunken Poet at the start of the fight, then start with your fan, use the martial arts skill to put down the heal, switch to the Umbrella, apply the damage buff which lasts 12 seconds, use the special skill, then use Dragon's Breath and parry cancel the animation, then start spamming Drunken Poet. You should have enough time to output 2 full rotations of Drunken Poet before the damage buff runs out, which is enough to wipe out some of the campaign bosses or at least 1 full health bar. It can be a very devastating combo if you have Drunken Poet at max level. You can also mix in Soaring Spin for quick damage for low cost. For PvP, this build is not recommended as it's very weak and you have to rely only on mystic skills to deal damage, which are very limited by your vitality. Remember that you deal 20% more damage with mystic skills with this build. You don't really have a specific combo, but here are some things you can do. Start off with the Umbrella special skill to ensure you activate it without getting interrupted. Use Drunken Poet once to get drunk and make your Dragon's Breath faster. Switch to the fan and get ready to put down your healing water clone depending on where the fight is taking place. Whenever you have dew available, use your fan special skill for the healing over time buff. If you have space, you can spam the heavy attack to heal yourself and gain more dew. When it comes to actually dealing damage, your best mystic skills are Soaring Spin, Dragon's Breath, Drunken Poet, Leaping Toad, and Soaring Spin or Yaksha Rush. You should have Cloud Steps and Serene Breeze equipped always to get out of stagger and chase enemies around. Since you are playing defensively, always look to parry your opponent's attacks to get them exhausted and deal some damage. Your main goal in PvP is to wear down your opponent by healing yourself while chipping away at their health with your mystic skills. Take note that you can't let the timer run out to win, since the player with the most damage dealt wins, so you have to look to finish your opponent. In order for you to have a good chance in PvP, you need to have your main mystic skills upgraded to the maximum possible tier. For group PvP content, just use the same rotation as for group PvE. For mystic skills, we have the following recommendations for PvE. Golden Body for the party-wide buff and only use it when you have 100 vitality. Meridian Touch, Celestial Seas and Cloud Steps to deal with various boss mechanics. For PvP mystic skills, we have the following recommendations. Serene Breeze to get out of stagger, Cloud Steps as a gap closer, Soaring Spin as a quick damage dealer and dodging skill, Leaping Toad for high single target damage and chi damage, Drunken Poet plus Dragon's Breath to quickly apply damage over time debuff to the enemies. Let's talk about inner ways which provide you with even more healing and utility buffs. First we have the Royal Remedy inner way, which is the most important one. This increases the healing of your water clone created by the Panacea Fan by 10%. If you are within the range of the clone, you get 1 dew each time you get healed. You get the following upgrades at tiers 1, 3, 4 and 6. At tier 1, when you get healed by the water clone, you now get 2 dew and 2 vitality. This upgrade is crucial to make this build viable in PvP, otherwise you can't spam your mystic skills. At tier 3, after casting the perception skill Endless Cloud, it now applies a 6-second healing over time effect to you and your allies. At tier 4, Endless Cloud now requires 50 dew to cast, down from 100. At tier 6, when you have the Panacea Fan equipped, all damage taken from non-player units is reduced by 20%. If you die, a Resurrection Water Clone will be summoned at your current location for 7 seconds. Teammates entering the Water Clone's range can gain a Resurrection skill to revive you, and it does not consume Resurrection counts in online mode dungeons. In online mode dungeons, if no teammate uses the Resurrection skill during the duration of the Water Clone, you can choose to immediately revive yourself. The Resurrection Water Clone can only be summoned once per 120 seconds, and after summoning it, the damage reduction effect is disabled for 120 seconds. This inner way is absolutely insane, as it enables you to perform better in PvP, it allows you to spam your best healing abilities even easier, and it even allows you to revive yourself, which is just insane. Next we have the Restoring Bloom inner way, which makes your critical healing apply 1 stack of Nurturing for 3 seconds, increasing healing received by 2%, stacking up to 3 times. You get the following upgrades at tiers 1, 3, 4 and 6. At tier 1, the Nurturing stacks now last for 6 seconds. At tier 3, dealing critical healing applies 1 stack of Heart Focus to yourself, increasing the healing you deal by 2% for 6 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. At tier 4, both the Nurturing and the Heart Focus buffs can now stack up to 6 times. At tier 6, dealing critical healing to a target below 30% HP adds 2 stacks of Nurturing and Heart Focus. This inner way is meant to buff your critical healing, meaning you will generally heal more than before. Overall, it can increase your healing potential by up to 24%. Next we have the Esoteric Revival inner way, which makes your Resurrection skill heal the revived target by 50% more. You get the following upgrades at tiers 1, 3, 4 and 6. At tier 1, the healing is increased by 75%. At tier 3, reduces the damage taken by the revived target by 30% for 3 seconds. At tier 4, after reviving the target, grants them a healing over time effect. At tier 6, share 30% of the damage taken by the revived targets over 8 seconds. If the target dies during this time, restores 25% of your max HP. This inner way is meant to empower your resurrection ability, ensuring that the revived target doesn't immediately die again after that and getting them to full HP quicker. Lastly, we have Mending Loom, which makes your Soulshade Umbrella special skill restore 5 dew and additionally healing 10% of your max HP for every 100 dew you consume during this duration. You get the following upgrades at tiers 1, 3, 4 and 6. At tier 1, the cooldown of the special skills is reduced to 1 second. At tier 3, it now heals you for 10% of your max HP when you consume 50 dew instead of 100 dew. At tier 4, the range of the skill for detecting allies is increased by 50%. At tier 6, the skill now heals both you and the ally with the lowest HP percentage at the same time. This inner way makes your Umbrella special skill have basically no cooldown and healing much more and in a bigger range. Since it makes it have 1 second cooldown and the skill lasts for 60 seconds, this means you can now pull it out without even having to switch to the Umbrella, simply by using your Panacea Fan perception skill Endless Cloud. As you can see, most of the inner ways are pretty good and give you great healing and utility buffs. Arguably, the worst of the inner ways is Esoteric Revival, because in order to make it worth using, your allies would have to die very often and you to keep reviving them, which should never be the case, at least not in PvE content. Instead, you should replace it with Morale Chant, which gives you a direct healing buff which is permanent. For PvP, you should consider using Fury Harvest and Divine Roulette instead of Restoring Blossom and Mending Loom. Now it is time to move to the Gear tab and talk about item sets, tuning attributes and more. First off, we want to use the SILKBIND arsenal, and for Divinecraft for group content, you should use water to reduce the enemy's damage, and for solo content you should use poison or fire. When it comes to gear sets, we are using Ivory Bloom and Eagle Rise. Ivory Bloom gives you critical rate as the 2-piece effect, which is extremely important for this build, and the 4-piece effect gives you 5% bonus critical healing chance and 15% critical healing amount when you're at full HP. You should be full HP almost constantly since you're the healer, so you should have no problem with maintaining this buff active. The Eagle Rise set is the best option here for armor, as it gives you a stacking damage reduction buff whenever you heal, lasting 10 seconds and adding up to 6%. When you reach max stacks, which is 5, you get the Eagle Guard effect, reducing the next damage taken within 10 seconds by 90% on a 30 seconds cooldown. This set is perfect for this build as you will be able to maintain the stacks almost constantly due to your main healing skills. Unfortunately, it seems that this set is bugged since it only triggers from your fan special skill or dual weapon skill. You will have to keep using your special skill at least once every 10 seconds if you want to maintain the buff active at all times. Now let's talk about the actual tuning and attuning attributes we should look for on our gear. How do we know which attributes are important for our build? The answer is pretty simple. We just need to go back and look at our talents and our skills and playstyle and see what stats they are focusing on. In our case, for the SILKBIND DELUGE path, we need the following minimum attributes to reach 100% efficiency on our talents: 175 agility, 750 minimum physical attack, and 197 minimum SILKBIND attack. If we look at our martial arts, inner ways, item sets, and overall build playstyle, we can see that the core idea of the build is to heal your teammates and yourself and deal as much critical healing as possible to keep your teammates at full health while also avoiding death. The entire build revolves around dealing critical heals, and we have several skills and effects which give us critical rate and increased critical healing. We get critical rate from our critical rate up talent, critical healing bonus from our critical heal enhancement talent, and another 5% critical healing rate and 15% critical healing from the Ivory Bloom gear set. In order to take advantage of all these effects, we will need to ensure we have 100% precision rate and as much critical rate as possible, which will be our chance to deal critical healing. Remember that only precision hits can be critical heals, and critical rate is capped at 80% against enemies of the same level. How can you identify critical healing? It is represented by the green colored healing number, while regular healing is represented by the white colored numbers. Your healing value is directly impacted by your SILKBIND attack and physical attack, similarly to how your damage value is impacted by the same attributes. The priority order for your tuning attributes on all gear pieces should be the following. The first and most important attribute which you want to have on every single gear piece is critical rate, which is the best way to get our critical rate to 80%. You want to roll this on every single piece of gear unless you already have 80% critical rate. The second most important attribute which you want to have on every single gear piece is agility. Why? Because agility is the best way to gain critical rate besides the actual critical rate attribute. Remember that you want to get as close to 80% critical rate as possible. Every 1 point of agility will give you 0.1% critical rate and 1.12 minimum physical attack. So you are getting 2 of the most important stats just from this one attribute. You want to try and get agility on all of your gear pieces and only stop when you reach 80% critical rate. Next, you want to roll precision rate until you reach 100%, then stop. Next, you want to roll minimum physical attack until you reach 750 to max out your heavy attack healing boost and critical heal enhancement talents. Then you want to get minimum SILKBIND attack until you reach 197 to max out your SILKBIND attribute up talents. After you are done with reaching 100% on all of your talents, for the remainder of your tuning slots you should focus on max or minimum SILKBIND attack or physical attack. This is how an ideal min-maxed gear set would look like for the SILKBIND Deluge path. Agility on all 8 gear slots, critical rate on all 8 gear slots, precision rate on 4 or 5 gear slots depending on how much you need to reach 100%, minimum physical attack on 4 or 5 gear slots depending on how much you need to reach 100% efficiency on the corresponding talents, minimum SILKBIND attack on 4 or 5 gear slots depending on how much you need to reach 100% efficiency on the corresponding talents, and then minimum or maximum SILKBIND attack or physical attack on the remainder of the slots. Your goals are to reach the critical rate cap, reach 100% efficiency on all talents, then reach 100% precision rate and then as much SILKBIND attack or physical attack as possible. For Attunement attributes priority for PvE, focus on the following. For weapons and accessories, you want to prioritize SILKBIND penetration, then physical penetration, anything else is unacceptable. For armor, you want to roll Panacea Fan martial arts skill healing boost, as this is your main healing ability which you will use all the time. For arena attunement attributes, use the following setup. Now it's time for some advanced tips and tricks. Make sure to stay inside the area of the water clone to benefit from the dew recovery and vitality recovery, but prioritize staying at full health. If you take damage, you essentially lose 5% critical rate and 15% critical healing, so avoid that at all cost. Your heavy attack and special skills have a very long range, so you can heal teammates from a distance while avoiding damage. Remember that your heavy attack skill will either heal the target directly facing the middle of your screen, or the target selected in the party list. For this reason, you should avoid being locked in on the boss and try to target heal your teammates by facing them with the camera. You can even heal your teammates while facing the camera away from them, so do everything you can to position yourself correctly and keep healing your teammates. Try to avoid using any other mystic skills than your golden body while at full vitality. When you know a dangerous boss attack is coming, use it right before it hits to shield everybody. Enable the background martial art cooldowns option in the settings game tab to see when your umbrella martial art is back off cooldown, so you can keep it active at all times. When switching between the fan and the umbrella, always do it using the dual weapon skill button, not the regular button, to trigger the bonus effects and get more healing and maintain the eagle rise buff. Since the main action you will be using is to spam your heavy attack in order to heal people, you should also enable the hold light heavy attack button for auto attack option in the game tab of the settings menu. Now you can just hold the heavy attack button and focus on moving your camera towards the players that need more healing, which makes it less tiring and gives you more precision. Remember to be prepared for when the boss is about to become exhausted and switch to your umbrella to apply the damage increase buff, and then use your charged attack to extend the duration of the exhaustion state. Hold the button and keep an eye on the boss buff bar where you can see the debuff from the charged attack. Against multiplayer bosses, when it reaches 10 stacks you can stop, and against solo bosses you can stop at 20 stacks. You can use the heavy attack healing skill to quickly heal yourself back to full if needed by selecting yourself in the party list menu. This build is pretty easy to play, and once you master it you can make a big difference in PvE group content by keeping your teammates alive and negating the most dangerous mechanics from any boss. Hopefully this video has helped you understand how the SILKBIND Deluge path works and how to maximize your DPS and perform the best combos. With this video I have now concluded my build guide series for all the current paths in the game. Next I'm going to work on a build guide for the upcoming Bambuka Dust path next week, so stay tuned. Leave a comment below if you have any other tips and tricks for the SILKBIND Deluge path. That would be it for this video, and if you found this information helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.